Am I the asshole for reminding my mom's best friend of how awful her daughter is when she criticized me? My family and I celebrated Mother's Day last night by hosting a dinner. My mom's best friend, Holly, joined us because they have been close since childhood. My uncle, aunt, their partners, my cousins and my grandparents were there, so there was around 16 of us, and the older generations know Holly very well. I'm 30, still living with my parents. Holly began to ask when I planned to move out, and I explained my position and the expected timeline. She laughed, said her daughter, Sophie, purchased a house at 18 while studying and bragged about Sophie's prestigious career. Keep in mind, her daughter is in her late 40s and the housing market was very different. She told my mom that she'd be embarrassed if her kids were still at home and implied that I was a failure and that my job is not that good. Now, Sophie is in jail for a pretty hideous crime. There's been a lot on our local news about the case and she's currently working towards a shortened sentence and placing blame on the victim of her crime, very publicly through her lawyer. Yes, she had an impressive career up until this happened, but there is no way that she will be rehired after she is released. I looked Holly in the eye and said that while I might not be a fancy career role like her daughter and I might still live with my parents, at least I didn't commit crime. I told her that I think I know who my mom would prefer to have living under her roof. Holly ended up leaving not long after that, and it was obvious she was in tears. My grandparents are furious that I had the audacity to say this, and my uncle has sent a few strongly worded messages. My aunt and my mom are keeping silent, but my cousins are firmly on my side. They're all closer to my age and can empathize with my situation, living at home. Too long did not read. Mom's BFF was rude to me. I reminded her of her own daughter's behavior. Not the asshole. Sounds like Holly is living in an Instagram version of her real life. You are an adult and even if you still live at home, you are Holly's equal. If she chooses to belittle you, you are entitled to stick up for yourself. Sounds like her daughter isn't the prize Holly paints her to be. Wow, you should be furious because no one stepped in and said, "That's enough, Holly." If they wanted to ensure the incident was handled with decorum, they should have stepped in. They see a family member degraded and they don't take up for them? Yeah, they set up the scene they're so furious about. Not the asshole, and I'm really sorry no one spoke up. If this continues or even escalates, make sure Holly is repeatedly reminded when visiting hours are at the prison. Not the asshole. Holly came for you unprovoked and tried to humiliate you in front of your entire family. You just reminded her that having a fancy career and buying a house young doesn't mean much when you're also capable of committing serious crimes. Yeah, it was a low blow, but she threw the first punch. Maybe next time she'll think twice before tearing someone down to feel better about herself. Not the asshole. How can she sit there saying she'd be embarrassed if her kids were still at home when she's got one in prison? I'd rather live at home than in prison, to be honest. Tears of joy. Good on you for sticking up for yourself, and shame on your grandparents and uncle for reacting the way they have. What were you supposed to do? Roll over and let her speak to you like that? Out of curiosity, what was the crime? Would you allow any other adult to speak to you this way? Not the asshole. Would I be the asshole for wearing deodorant even though someone may be allergic? Throwaway account for privacy reasons. So, at the beginning of the second semester, we got a new teacher. This teacher said she had scent sensitivity and couldn't be around any perfume or fragrances. The people in my family have scent sensitives, so all my deodorant, soaps are unscented. I have continued wearing this deodorant for months, and I sit in the front of the class. This teacher has never seemed to react. Also, some of my friends put on scent products in the morning, and she never react, even though you can clearly smell it. Yesterday, I had gym class and it ran over. I had to change into my school uniform and had no time to apply the deodorant. The bell rang and I was late for class. I reapplied the deodorant in the bathroom and went to class. However, I forgot to zip up my backpack. When I was in class, the deodorant fell out, and the teacher saw the deodorant. She asked if it was scent, and I said no. She then yelled at me, saying she was having an allergic reaction. But here's the thing, she didn't look like it. Her breathing didn't change, no watery eyes, stuffy nose, anything. And she just taught the class like normal. I felt bad and emailed her about what deodorant she didn't react so I could buy it, but got a response saying that was inappropriate. Part of me thinks she is faking. So, would I be the asshole if I just continued wearing it? Not the asshole. If your deodorant's unscented and she's had no reaction for months, even with others wearing obvious scents, then it doesn't really add up, does it? Classrooms are big enough that a bit of unscented deodorant shouldn't be setting anyone off. Sounds more like she saw the stick, assumed the worst, and overreacted. You even reached out to try and be considerate, and she shut that down. That's on her. Just keep doing what you're doing. No need to bend over backwards when it's clear you're not the issue. Not the asshole. I don't see how someone could function as a teacher, high school, college, and have every single student in the classroom not wear deodorant. The Bo hotbox would probably make me pass out, no allergic reaction required. Asking people to not wear deodorant is not a reasonable accommodation for the teacher. In ADA terms, it's reasonable to ask people not to wear heavily scented things, but you can't just put a blanket ban on hygiene products. Not the asshole. Obviously, I'd escalate this to a dean or principal, not sure if you're in HS or uni. Definitely not the asshole, but the teacher is. She probably assumed the deodorant was scented and overreacted. It's kinda unrealistic to ask students to never wear scents around her. Scents rub off on us all the time. Everything is literally perfumed nowadays. I would honestly tell the school administration about this, but it's an asshole move to blame an allergic reaction on you. You never know if she'll turn around and try to blame you instead. Retired nurse here. I've seen so many people who intentionally or not mix up allergy with intolerance. As with many nurses, I have a scent intolerance. It's not an allergic reaction, but certain scents will give me a screaming headache. It's possible your teacher has an intolerance. And while migraines suck ass, it's not an allergic reaction. You're not the asshole, but that being said, cover your ass. If the teacher keeps saying, allergy, start keeping notes on what she says. When, what caused it, what happened. I can't blame your teacher for not wanting to be exposed to something she's intolerant of, but she does not get to throw around the word allergy if it's not. Not the asshole. She is absolutely faking it. Unscented deodorant doesn't cause a reaction because the person, allergic, saw it. There is no reaction on site. Am I the asshole for moving out early after learning my horrible roommate is terminally ill? For the last 6 months, I have endured living with what I thought was an incompetent, lazy individual. He would leave dishes in the dishwasher for weeks, pile up trash on the kitchen table, and keep his personal items all over common areas of the house. He also sleeps in the living even though he has a room and blasts the TV until 4 a.m. on weekdays. He leaves his laundry in the washer for weeks, washing dishes with bleach and floor cleaner. Like, this is just a few of the things I have experienced. There's worse. Well, I recently learned after confronting my landlord yet again with a variety of issues that this roommate has high blood pressure, chronic heart disease, end-stage kidney disease, and needs dialysis to live. While I was shocked and felt bad, especially because I ignore him completely, I'm a little upset my landlord didn't disclose he was basically in hospice care prior to me moving in. Overall, I am starting to honestly understand his behavior more, and have more empathy. I think he should have did assistant living more than living with roommates who he is kind of dependent for care. Instead of staying, however, I am even more of a rush to move before my lease ends. I am a little freaked out by the whole thing, I must admit, mainly because for someone with a terminal illness he doesn't eat well or take care of himself, and I'm scared to walk in the living room one day and he's not breathing. Last night his breathing was so heavy it was so scary. My landlord just got laid off and could use the extra money, but I told him I'm moving out by 6/1 anyway. I know this will leave my landlord with a financial burden, but I need to do what's best for me. My friend said I need more empathy, but I feel like prioritizing myself is more important. Edit. Based on the comments, I'm learning that his condition is not terminal and is not dying, just chronically sick. I really appreciate all the medical education being given. Sorry if I appear ignorant, I just simply didn't know, and Googling wasn't much help, to be honest. Not the asshole. You are not equipped for this. He needs to be in the care of someone who can offer medical assistance. How did this happen? Didn't you have any say about who you would have as a roommate? More empathy for what? It's not up to you to take care of any of these people. You don't have to keep living in an uncomfortable place to subsidize anyone. Not the asshole. That sounds like a nightmare situation. But in all honesty, it doesn't sound like he's necessarily knocking on death's door. People live decades on dialysis. It's not the death sentence it once was. And yes, their diet will be very strange because of what they have to avoid. If the kidneys filter it, they should avoid it. I spent 2 years as a dialysis nurse. High blood pressure is super common with kidney disease, and half the patients I had has chronic heart disease. The majority of our patients who passed because they were tired and decided it was time. I hope this gives you a bit of fresh air while you wait to move out. Not the asshole. You aren't a caregiver, nor is this person related to you. You are under no obligation to take care of him. The living conditions sound horrible. Leave when you can. Not the asshole. Your landlord's financial health and your roommate's physical and mental health are not your responsibility. Not the asshole. Watching someone die is traumatizing. We do it for the ones we love because we love them. Some people do it professionally, and they have training and support to handle it. You are not trained, and this is not someone you love. Compassion and empathy do not require you to live in a cesspool waiting for this person to die, Especially, if nobody bothered to tell you that you were moving into a hospice situation. Am I the asshole for not agreeing to split the bill for a Mother's Day dinner? My mother texted my oldest sister and I that we will be going to a restaurant on Friday, yesterday. I agreed and made sure to free up my evening. Come Friday, we were 11 persons, 2 families, at the table, including my grandma, aunt, uncle and cousins. Near the end of the dinner, my sister stood up and went away somewhere. When she came back, she had a receipt in her hand, so my mom asked if that's the bill she was holding. My sister announced that she went to pay and that me and her were treating the table today for Mother's Day. I was shocked because we never discussed that. She handed me the bill and asked me to transfer her half of the total, $350 divided by 2 equals $175. Back in our place, I told my sister that I couldn't afford that with all the bills and that I did not agree to split the bill beforehand. She then proceeded to say that I'm ungrateful for our mom and that as the older children in the group, we need to foot the bill. For more context, since the end of last year, I no longer live with my parents. I am in my 20s and currently live with my oldest sister, mainly because she wanted to move out and couldn't afford paying the mortgage bills by herself, so my parents made me move out with her. At the time, I didn't realize how expensive that will be. My sister has now a 6-figure job and I have a way lower income, and basically living paycheck by paycheck. That is no excuse for me not to pay, but wanted to point out our different financial realities. I haven't paid her yet, but am I the asshole for not wanting to split the bill? Not the asshole and don't pay it. This wasn't something you agreed to, so therefore you shouldn't have to pay that much. It's not that you don't appreciate your mom, you just simply cannot afford that much at the moment. I would be livid if one of my children tried to do this to their siblings. In top, pay for yourself and half of your mom's if you want to, but you never agreed and she doesn't get to decide what you do with your money. Not the asshole. If your sister wanted the 2 of you to treat the rest of the family to dinner, she should have asked you about it before she invited anyone. It's rude and presumptuous of her to spring that on you at the last minute. You never agreed to pay for anyone else's meal. You went to dinner under the logical assumption that you would be paying for your own food and that's it. Not the asshole. Absolutely not. It's not for your sister to decide. This isn't just about paying for your mother. Why on earth does she imagine that you'd want to pay for all those other people? Not the asshole. Do not pay half. I would say to her, I will pay for my meal and mom's meal. That's it. You made an assumption that I am as financially stable and secure as you are. I am not, and that fact should be plainly obvious to you. In addition, even if I was making the kind of money that you make, it would be extremely rude of you to unanimously decide that me, or anyone else, would be paying the bill with you. If you want to look like the generous giver, that's great. But don't expect me or anybody else to go along with you blindly. End of discussion. Not the asshole, that should have been discussed with you in advance. But if you don't mind giving a general geographical location, I'm really curious to know where dinner for 11 people is only $350. I guess nobody had drinks? Is that including gratuity?